Three men vanish from a lonely lighthouse. No bodies, no distress call, an untouched meal, and a final cryptic message in the logbook. God is over all. More than a century later, the disappearance of the Flannan Isles Lighthouse Keepers remains one of the strangest and most unnerving maritime mysteries in history. Tonight, we'll journey into the heart of the story, examining the facts, the theories, and the chilling unanswered questions surrounding this case. Was it a storm, a crime, or something far more sinister? Something the sea itself refuses to let us understand. The Flannan Isles, also known as the Seven Hunters, lie about 20 miles west of Scotland's Outer Hebrides. These aren't lush, rolling islands. They're jagged, treeless, windswept rocks. The waves pound against sheer cliffs, the air is thick with salt spray, and seabirds fill the skies. The largest of these rocks is Eilean Moor, and in 1899, a lighthouse was constructed on its peak to protect ships from the treacherous waters. But building and manning a lighthouse here was no small task. It meant living in complete isolation. No neighbours, no village, just the ocean stretching endlessly in every direction. Relief ships came only once every 2 weeks, sometimes longer if the weather was bad. For the keepers, it was duty, and a test of endurance. The three keepers stationed at the lighthouse in December of 1900 were James Ducat, the principal keeper, a steady man with years of experience, Thomas Marshall, the second assistant, young but capable, and finally, Donald MacArthur, the occasional keeper, who filled in when the others were away. He was known as tough, fiery, and not easily shaken. On paper, these were ordinary men, fathers, husbands, sailors, but together they would become the subject of one of the world's eeriest maritime mysteries. The date is December 15th, 1900. The steamer Arctur was passing near the Flannan Isles when its crew noticed something was wrong. The lighthouse beacon, which should have been burning brightly to guide ships, was dark. For a lighthouse to go dark was a serious problem. It meant something bad had gone wrong, possibly even a tragedy. Days passed, storms battered the seas, preventing any ship from reaching the island, and it wasn't until December 26th, 11 days later, that a relief vessel, the Hesperus, finally managed to dock. When the crew landed, they found silence. No keepers waiting, no signs of life, only the heavy crash of the sea against the cliffs. Inside, the lighthouse was strangely frozen in time. The beds were neatly made, the lamps were cleaned, filled with oil ready to burn. A meal had been prepared, but left untouched. One chair was overturned, as if someone had stood up suddenly. The clock on the wall had stopped, and most chilling of all, 2 sets of oilskin coats, heavy waterproof gear essential for going outside in storms, were missing. But the third coat remained on its hook. Why would one man leave the lighthouse unprotected against the elements? And where were they all? Then came the strangest discovery of all, the logbook. The entries for December 12th described severe winds, the likes of which I have never seen before in 20 years. On the 13th, Thomas Marshall noted the storm continuing, but he added something disturbing. Donald MacArthur has been crying. This was odd. MacArthur was known as a hardened, experienced man. The idea that he was crying unsettled investigators. On December 14th, The logbook notes said that the storm was still raging. Then, the final entry on December 15th, just hours before the lights went out, storm ended, sea calm, God is over all. And after that, nothing. But here's where the case takes a terrifying turn. Meteorological records show that on those days, the seas around Flannan Isles were actually calm. No massive storms were reported. So what storm were the keepers writing about? Following this, the Northern Lighthouse Board launched an inquiry. The official conclusion was simple. The men had gone out to secure equipment on the west landing during a storm. A sudden wave, what's often called a rogue wave, swept them away. But this explanation left troubling questions. Why would all three men go outside, breaking safety protocol that required just one man to stay inside? Why did one man leave without his coat, venturing into the freezing rain? Why did the logbook describe storms that didn't exist? And why was the final entry so strange, almost like a prayer? Even the investigators admitted, something about the case didn't sit right. Over the years, many theories have been proposed. Some plausible, others far stranger. Number one is the wave theory. Perhaps all three men were securing equipment when a freak wave struck. The sea around the Flannan Isles is unforgiving. Waves have been known to rise 100 feet. This could explain their sudden disappearance, but it doesn't explain the missing log entries or the sense of dread recorded in the days before. Number two, murder or madness. Another theory suggests that isolation drove one man mad. Perhaps a fight broke out, one man killed the others, then perished himself in the sea. But investigators found no blood, no damage inside, no sign of violence. And would a murderer really pause to write detailed log entries about storms and tears? At number three, we have supernatural theories. For centuries, sailors have whispered about the Flannan Isles being haunted. Voices carried on the wind, strange lights flickering on the water. Some even said the islands were cursed, inhabited by ancient spirits of the sea. Was something otherworldly responsible for the keeper's disappearance? And then at number four, alien abduction. In more modern times, some point to the bizarre nature of the case. The missing time, the non-existent storm, the sudden vanishing, all suggest something even stranger. Could the men have been taken by something not of this world? And finally, the myth of the logbook. Skeptics argue that the eerie log entries might never existed at all. Some historians claim they're inventions of later storytellers, added to make the mystery darker. But if that's true, then what really happened in those final hours? It's easy to get lost in theories, but at the heart of this mystery were three real men, fathers, husbands, friends. Their families waited for answers that never came. No bodies were ever recovered, no personal effects drifted ashore. For the wives and children of the keepers, the disappearance was more than a mystery. It was a wound that never healed. The story of the Flannan Isles keepers spread quickly. It inspired poems, songs, even modern films. The poet Wilfred Wilson Gibson wrote, "We seem to stand for an endless while, though still no word was said. 3 men alive on Flannan Isle. Who fought on 3 men dead?" The tale became a ghost story of the sea, retold by sailors and lighthouse men for generations. But unlike most ghost stories, this one is true. To this day, the Flannan Isle Lighthouse still stands. Its beam cuts through endless fog and crashing waves. But it's also a tomb of sorts. A place where the 3 men vanished into thin air, their final hours locked away forever. The truth may be lost to time, but the mystery lives on, haunting the imagination. When you look out at the ocean, remember this. The sea is vast, the sea is merciless, and sometimes the sea takes more than ships. Sometimes it takes men. Perhaps the light went out because the keepers were called somewhere we will never meant to follow.